All right, here we have another sprint takeover by Dazzlecat, and we are going back to the Cragjumper's Ale House. Let's get to it. Let me zoom out a little bit, and we can have a out. We can have an overview of this. All right, we have some Hero Forge characters added. My brew will win even if I have to scour every slope for every mountain for the hops. Nothing will beat my honey mead, I'll see to that. Hear ye, the contests have ended in a tie. We must have a winner. To that end, it has been decided that the top two brews shall compete in a runoff to be held at the fall harvest. May the best brew win. All right. They look like they could be brothers. All right. Cragjumper's Ale House sat in the common part of the town of Blackstone. Cragjumper's Ale House has served that part of town all the way back to when it was the only part of town. The only real rival to the ale house is the Blackstone Inn, which stands in the fancy part of town built for all the wealthy who come to town. Um, okay, so you have town twice in that sentence. I would probably actually change this one to like to visit, to vacation, to travel, or something. Um, it would probably be a shock to those finery folks to know that the inn's special brew, Peak Ale, is made in Cragjumpers. Also, the specialty brew at the Blackstone is actually made at Cragjumpers. Cragjumper's Ale House began as a simple tavern where the Mud Runner clan served up the ales, wines, and spirits it had taken in raids, back in the day when the town was simply their permanent camp. Back then, the tavern had no name, it was just a pole building. As the permanent camp turned into a town, the people took to farming more than piracy. With less raids, there was less spirits to be had at the Pole Bar Tavern, so folks began to brew their own. The competition to have their brew sold at the pole barn quickly heated up. The elders who ran the town tavern to fund town works. Okay, the elders who ran the tavern to fund town works decided to put an end to all the rivalries before things got bloody. They decided to hold a competition during the spring planting. The best brew would get the tavern. Okay, hold on a second. Let me start up a 10-minute timer for those who may be doing a word sprint. It also helped me know how much time I have left. Um, okay, the best brew would get the tavern. The competition quickly became a festival where the townsfolk simply sampled brew after brew. If they liked the brew, they dropped a painted stone in the basket by that brew. Finally, it came down to two brewers, one with a wonderful honey mead made by Azio, and the others with a mighty fine dark ale made by Mirko. It was close to the it was so close the town was split evenly on whose was best. The elders then decided a brew off. The second brewing would prove who had the most consistent brewing style, and the judging would be held during the fall harvest. Fall harvest. The harvest. Okay, one thing. Okay, so it quickly became a festival. So is this the first time it became a festival, the first time that it happened? Or is this something that happened year after year? To me, when something becomes a festival, it becomes a tradition, but also uh, it could be that word got around and they just decided to throw a big party the first time they do it. Whichever works for you is cool, but I would make it more clear that this festival is an ad hoc thing as opposed to them chew. Yeah, okay, it was a one-time party. I would try to make that more clear that this is a one-time party thing. Okay, Mirko was determined to beat his rival Oslo, and he carefully tended his hop fields, waiting for the midsummer harvest when they would be ready. Oslo, too, was determined to win. As Mirko's hops were ready to be harvested, he set fire to Mirko's fields. As okay, so who's the he? I'm presuming that's Oslo. But since you are in a new paragraph, the fact that Oslo was determined to win in this paragraph doesn't carry over to this next paragraph. We kind of reset what the pronouns refer to when we change paragraphs. So you would need to say, as Mirko's hops were ready to harvest, Oslo set fire to, and then I would say his competitors' fields, because you already have Mirko here, and then you have Mirko here. So I just add Oslo here, and then describe Mirko afterwards. He, again, Oslo, uh, snuck back into home and into bed just in time to be awakened by the ringing off of the muster bell. Okay, muster bell. He went out with the other men to like to muster everyone, to rally them. Okay. If that's the version of the word to muster, to bring together, um, okay. Some people might not understand that context of the word, because I thought it was like the monster bell, because it's the bell that warns them about monsters. But yeah, that it still works. It still works. Um, put out the fires before they burned more of Mirko's field, all the time pretending to be concerned. Though there was no way to prove who had started the fire that ruins the field, Mirko felt certain it was Oslo. But there was no time to get justice, at least not if he wanted to win. Tossing aside his fury, Mirko headed into the hills, looking for wild hops. That is where he found the first plants that he had started his fields with years ago. With time against him, Mirko roamed the hills. He took great risks, like jumping from one side of a steep peak to the other to save time by not going back down and around. Herders in the hills watched him, and in the evenings they amused the townsfolk with Mirko's escapades. Everyone took to calling him Cragjumper because of those shepherds. Mirko was too busy to care. Finally able to start his brew, Mirko worked hard until every drop that could be barreled was barreled. He spent the rest of the summer guarding his barrel and good naturedly accepted folks calling him Cragjumper. Okay, one question that I do here. Oh, did I miss a tool tip? How much did he have to collect? Are we talking a bushel? Are we talking like 2 kilograms, 10 kilograms? How much hops by weight did he have to collect? Oh, oh, I meant to add one. Oh, okay. I would be interested in knowing that as a person who's not familiar with brewery, especially this kind of brewing. I would, I would wonder that. I would say, hey, how hard did he have to work until he had, you know, 50 pounds worth of hops to be able to meet? Was there a minimum requirement, for example, of barrels? And that's why, how much did he save from his crop versus how much? Because if you only have to brew a pint, that's one thing. Yeah, was there a minimum amount of barrels of alcohol required in the competition to be able to compete? And that's why he had to go becoming the crag jumper, because even though he salvaged some of the hops, he didn't salvage enough hops to be able to compete. Okay. Um, then it was the fall harvest. Time for the fall harvest. Time for the festival. Oslo was certain his brew would win, and he strutted around like he had already won. As people sampled both brews, more and more choosing stones went into Mirko's basket. A frustrating Oslo, it was not until he sampled some of Mirko's brew that he realized why. This was the very best brewed ale he had ever tasted. When the end of the summer came and Mirko was declared the winner, Oslo sunk home in defeat. Okay, why? Again, why was it the best ale? Was it because of wild hops? Was it because of, I don't know. Yes, he had to make enough for everyone to sample it. Okay, but how how many hops is that? To make, 20 liters of beer, it requires X kilograms of hops. I don't know. I mean, it would. I think it might just add more tension to the article, saying why he was desperate. He had to. Yes, you'll have to research that, because think about it. He has to go up in and find enough wild hops to replace an entire harvest, or 80% of a harvest. That's a lot of hops. And by giving a weight, a kilogram, I think it would help us to understand how much work and how much desperation he had. Because if he was willing to become a crag jumper, that means that he really needed a lot of a lot of hops. Or maybe this is the first time barley was introduced, or maybe it was so good is because he didn't make it pure hops, but he had a secret blend of barley and wheat added to the hops to make up the difference. And the people loved it so much because it wasn't pure hops. And then he found now his secret mixture of hops, barley, whatever, that he. Okay, sorry, they just house creaked really odd. Sorry. Um, Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, posterity. Okay, we have real quick. Mirko swore to his family that the hops on the slopes added their own special flavor, and from that day on, all their ale would come from the slopes. He named his ale Peak Ale and named this simple tavern Cragjumper's Ale House after adding a brewery barn. And to this day, the family's name is Cragjumper, and their hops come from farms on the tall sloping hills. Okay. And it looks like James has found a link for you, Dazlacat. Okay. Good article. It's fun to revisit. And I like the hero characters. Though they do look like brothers. Okay, I've already liked this. Alright.